welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there who wants to find us, you can find us on Instagram at Justin Bizzarro and at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. With what's been going on with TikTok the last 48 hours, just so everyone knows, we are recording in January, even though this release is much later. But TikTok has been like up and down, like nonstop the last 24 hours or whatever, banned, not banned or whatever. So I think that's interesting, but I've always liked Instagram. So that's where you can find us. You can also find us on Spotify or wherever else you grow yourself through podcasts. We are out there as well. Additionally, I have very special guests with us. It's one of my favorite food groups, actually. People are going to laugh about this, but it is true. I have Nathan and Kristen here with us from Bologna Food Truck out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is just outside of Nashville. How are you guys doing today? I'm doing very well. Tell me, you guys, let's just dive in. Let's talk about how did you get into this business? Have you been entrepreneurial always? What was the journey like? Like there's obviously stepping stones and both of you are on the call. So I sort of want to make sure I give both of you enough time to talk about your journey together, your journey to this point where you are right now with a full Bologna food truck.
Funny enough, it all started with the Great American Food Truck Race on TV. Gosh, I can't even, probably 8-9 years ago. And it was really interesting and it really caught my attention, and started talking to a guy at work, a friend of mine, and we just tried to start throwing some ideas out there, and bologna came across my brain, and he kind of laughed at me till we, over the next few weeks, kind of started coming up with some dishes, and it's like, well, I never would have thought we could have had that much stuff going on with bologna. But as far as my entrepreneurial background, I don't have much. Kristen, she has always been quite entrepreneurial, so I'll let her speak on a little bit of that.
So for me, my part is he came to me and I had asked him a question about like, what's your passion? What's your passion? What do you want to do? What do you love? And he didn't quite have an answer for me yet. And so he said, let me get back to you on that. And that's when he came to me in about week later?
Yeah,
2 weeks later? Something like that. And he goes, I know what my passion is. And so he goes, I want to open a bologna truck and call it Full Bologna. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So that's kind of where my motivation with him took place, and we started to grow it. And then from there, I will let him pick up as to like getting the truck and putting it together and all that good stuff, because that was on him. I was a cheerleader.
Well, how do you come up with a menu of bologna alone to build even the food truck, or did you get the food truck first and then develop the menu? I just want to talk about this. There are a lot of things bologna could do, but you obviously had to think about like what am I going to serve the public here that's going to change the perception of bologna in some ways, but also keep the perception, which I love, which is 2 pieces of white bread, a piece of American cheese, and a piece of bologna. So like, talk to me about that.
Well, it kind of started off basic, and it started off pretty expansive. We were trying to come up with different ways for, maybe vegans or people with gluten allergies, how can you work around some of that stuff? And so it was pretty vast for a while. And then I kind of put it off to the side for, I don't know, several years, just kind of is in the back of my head. And so when we started getting a little more serious, and we've kind of stuck with just traditional ways of fixing bologna. We put a couple twists on it. We use, like a gourmet type bread. So we toast it on the griddle. I wanted to have one real unique dish, which is where the Nashville hot fried bologna sandwich came from. We experimented with that for a while, and that's been interesting. People love it. Some people are scared of it just because it says Nashville hot. It's not like your traditional crazy hot Nashville hot, but it's been interesting. So we do, we've got a smoked bologna sandwich that we do. It's Nate Dogg Smoke and Chub, and then we've got your traditional fried bologna. We do offer it cold too. That's typically not what people want, though. People like the fried bologna because they grew up on it. Grandma made it, mom made it, that type of thing. So we just kind of stuck to some of our traditional Southern heritage with the menu, to be honest with you.
And he's actually got one in there that he made for our son Colin growing up that was called a daddy lunchable. And he would use bologna in that daddy lunchable. And so it was basically his love of bologna as a child, we will say, and the way he used to eat it as to how he eats it now.
And I will disgust you. I used to, every day for lunch, my mom would have to make me a bologna and ketchup sandwich. I do not offer that on the truck. I will make it if someone asks for it. But
oh gosh, ketchup! It's my least favorite thing on the planet. I don't even understand it. I know everyone loves it, but it's so sweet to me. I can't even. And I've been in food a long time, and I will eat it on a hamburger if it's like mixed with mustard to like dull the sweetness. But
right,
bologna and ketchup.
Yeah, it was a weird thing. Even to this day, I'm like, I don't know why or how I ate it for so many years, but I did. My mom still laughs about it. So
I think the fun part for us is once we figured out what menu items we wanted. And for instance, like the smoked dog, that's so funny. The Nate Dogg Smoke and Chub, that has a smoked Gouda with a dill aioli that just kind of knocks it out of the ballpark. So we actually went in company in Franklin. We sat down with them and just started doing like tastings, which is where our Nashville hot comes from and where our Kansas City rub that comes on our smoke and chub. And our goal was to like just really like the palate to kind of explode with flavors, but still be able to taste the bologna. And the bologna isn't thinly sliced either.
No, it's half inch.
It's a half inch. So you're getting a substantial piece. And then from there, I think the other piece of the puzzle is like, how do we continue to incorporate family into this? And so we have his mom's recipe for mac and cheese. We call it Mama D's mac and cheese, and the D is for Downing.
And it's got its own following.
It does. It's in fact, I feel like the mac and cheese took off faster than anything. And then we've got what? Papa's
chili. That's my grandfather's no bean chili recipe, which you being a food aficionado, you know, real chili doesn't have beans in it.
Talk to the Texan.
Yes, I know that is. I agree with that. Actually, 100% do not put beans in my chili, please. I grew up with farms and farming, but you don't put that stuff near my chili. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we use it's a ground turkey meat in the chili, which gives it a unique taste too. So that was something he always did, and so I stuck with that with the recipe.
So everything really, I mean, it came out of the love, and from there was just family. And I feel like that's kind of been the theme through this whole thing is the concept of family. And our son was on the truck with us in the beginning cooking. He's actually a really good cook. And he has since gone on and does his college stuff. So he's left the two of us to man for ourselves in there, and we quite enjoy it.
Yes.
But for us, it's family and community. That kind of was the driving force. And then we actually invited all of our friends over to sit down and do tastings. And from that tasting, we basically came up with the menu.
Yep, narrowed it down for the initial opening, and we've expanded since. We've moved into some breakfast sandwiches. We tried that, and we were honored to be asked out to the Jack Daniel's barbecue competition this year, and so we decided to try and launch a breakfast sandwich. It's something Kristen been talking about for a while, and it went off like gangbusters. So we have put that permanently on the menu now too. So it's exciting to watch it grow the way it's been going, because we're just now coming up on our first full year in March.
I love this. I want to ask a question. I'm going to ask, how many bologna trucks are you competing against?
Zero.
There we go.
Every time we go out.
Well, and you'll see that some people will have like the traditional fried bologna
barbecue trucks will have it.
They'll have that. But I mean, we actually have another sandwich that's called the BBLTA, which is bacon, bologna, lettuce, tomato, and avocado. And I'm actually from California, born and raised. And so it's kind of funny. Anybody that sees that, they're like, there's the Californian. Avocado, I don't know, is quite a southern piece, but we
coming around.
It is. We threw a little bit of me in there too. And then we've got a K-Swizzle patty melt. That was one of our things we added on. One day we you know how you start to kind of like fall down, or like your food becomes less and you're like, okay, how do we put this together with what we've got? We came up with a K-swizzle off of our monster grilled cheese, and it took off. And so you can either get it with a smash burger, or you can get it with one of the choices of the 3 bologna tastings of your choice, and throw that bacon in there, 4 slices of cheese, and it's an ooey gooey yummy mess, but it's fabulous. And so we've had fun. We've
Yeah,
had fun
we let
playing.
customers play around with it too. We've got some customers that'll put the Nashville hot seasoning on the K-swizzle patty melt, and I'm like, that's interesting, and it looks delicious, smells delicious, and yeah, we let customers play with the menu as much as they want to. So it's been a lot of fun.
I love this. I want a couple things I want to emphasize. One, no different than barbecue sauce is not only meant for chicken, but we're talking about the same thing with not the Nashville hot sauce here. Like it is applicable to anything. I think true individuals do that. I know people have trouble, especially Nashville hot chicken places or chicken places, translating that into other products because they're afraid of what does that really mean, because it's supposed to be Nashville chicken, hot chicken. But come on, like, let's be honest, we blur lines all the time. It's not like we don't create a chicken cheesesteak after a normal cheesesteak. So that's a few things for the audience. I want to emphasize that. But what I also want to emphasize is the bologna. It's not only does now you have one unique thing on your menu, all the things are unique on your menu, correct? Because of the niche, the blue ocean strategy, I'll call it, that you chose to go to, which is where no one else was. Even though people would argue, oh, you're getting into a food truck. There's so many people in Nashville. It's so crowded. But the reality is not if you choose something that's different and you base your model off it. So let's talk about this a little bit and extrapolate on what I just said, because I think it's important to your brand. It's one of the reasons I asked you guys to be on here, is because I think it is important. I think it's important in building a business, and no one's ever done anything based around bologna that I know of.
Yeah,
Spam is done really well. Let's just put it that way. I know everyone's like, Spam? I'm like, yeah, not bologna, but Spam, it's done really well. So we understand that these things are part of the American palate for sure, if not the world palate.
Right.
Go ahead.
It was a big question mark, to be perfectly honest with you. I went back and forth. I'm like, did we go too niche? As it, that was the thing. I wanted to stand out. There's, nothing against the barbecue trucks. Some of our favorite people run barbecue trucks, but
yes.
they're a dime a dozen. And I'm sure that's in every city, not just here. Taco trucks,
Pizza gets done a lot.
So we wanted to stand out a little bit different from everybody else. I've obviously had a bologna habit. I don't want to say obsession, since I was a kid.
That could get a little weird, yeah, possibly.
Yeah. I mean, I've always enjoyed, like breakfast, I always would do, a couple slices of fried bologna, and, you got to do the traditional, cut a little slice on all 4 corners so it doesn't bowl up in the middle and it cooks evenly. We still do that with the 1/2-inch slab out there on the griddle too. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, actually. That's one of my questions here. How do you keep it from bubbling in the middle?
The exact same way you do. Your grandma did it. You put a little sliver on all 4 ends of it, and it just lays flat. It's funny because some of our older customers will kind of laugh because they'll see me back there doing that and be like, "Oh, my grandma used to do it the same way." That's the only way to keep it flat, unless you just keep a
smash, like the little smash things that you put on them.
I can't think of the terminology.
Yeah, no. You use it on bacon to keep the bacon flat. It also works on bologna to keep the bologna flat.
But no, we just cut a couple slivers in it. Yeah, and we go about it. So it was a little nervous, a little scary to getting out there, but it is slowly gotten it. I say slowly. It's actually
took off pretty
quick, to be honest with you. It surprised me. So
yeah. I will have to say though, just kind of sitting back and watching him, Justin, do this, I don't feel like the looking at the other trucks came before the idea of the truck. I think there was definitely that part of us in there that went, this is great. This is what I want. This is our menu. And as you're doing it, you know how like doubt starts to creep in a little bit and you're like, oh, was this a great choice? It's so nichey. I think that's when we started thinking along the lines of like other things and having a broader menu. And then what I loved about Nate was that he said, nope, I want to stay true to this. And if it works and goes off, great. If it doesn't, okay. And so he kept true to his childhood heart, I'll call it. And I loved it. It was really cool to see him do it.
So to prevent it from being too nichey, though, we did sit down and just kind of come up with, I don't even want to say afterthoughts, but they kind of were afterthoughts.
The smash burger was a conversation we had.
So the smash burger we put on for people, I know people, not everyone likes bologna, so we don't want to, exclude people from the truck. So we put the smash burger on because smash burgers were super hot at the time and still are.
Yeah.
And then
these are one of our
some
good
kids
sellers.
just don't like meat. So we kind of sat down, and that's where the Monster Grilled Cheese came into play. And this kind of sticks with the whole family theme. Some of our best friends' daughter is
let me take this one.
yeah, I'll
Let
let
me
you
take
take
this one. So I'm gonna give a shout out to Kara. Kara is one of my cheerleaders, and her mom and dad have become really close friends of ours. And so she has a palate thing where she is on the spectrum. And so I asked her one day, I said, hey, I need your help. I said, I need somebody to taste this grilled cheese that does not like grilled cheese because she's so picky. And so she goes, okay. And the fact that she went along with it, Justin, like floored me, because the kid's like hard and fast on her food. And so she looked at me, she took a bite, and then she proceeded to eat the whole thing. So we had to name it after her. So when I tell you the name where it came from a place because she's a force to be reckoned with. We call her Monster.
call her Little Monster.
We call her Little Monster. And it is the most loving, endearing, like sweetest way you could ever do it. But she is a force to be reckoned with. And she will give you nothing but grief and honesty. And so that is actually how our Monster Grilled Cheese came to be is through Kara.
I love this. Can you put bologna on it as an option?
You can.
There we go. We're all set.
Would be the K-Swizzle, actually.
That's kind of how the
K-Swizzle came about. Remember how we said there was a twist that came off of some of our food, just in that's where the K-Swizzle came in, is that people were wanting to add Nashville hot bologna was actually one of the most common things. And then we thought, well, why don't we just do kind of like we did with the BBLTA and throw a bacon on it and see what they think? And so that kind of morphed into another one of our really good sellers. And so it's crazy how much difference in flavor they are, but
same ingredient.
The different ingredients just mixed around. It's really cool just to play with it. In fact, the Zach, who is Kara's stepdad, he came up with putting our Mama D's mac and cheese on our smash burgers, as well as I think he put a piece of bologna on there. Or was that another customer?
That was another customer.
And so our smash burger, he puts the Nashville hot on. Yeah. So our smash burger, he would do like the Nashville hot with the mac and cheese and grill it up. And I kid you not, that thing was a mess, but it tasted so good.
Drooling over here. I know it's kind of crazy. I'm thinking about like butt drooling over bologna right now, but it's happening.
Next time you get to Nashville, come see us.
I know. I'm definitely coming there to try this. Let's talk about like how you build a truck. You now have a menu. You've got all these great ideas. Let's talk about this process of, okay, I have an idea. We're going to support each other and do this. A lot of people think this is crazy. Like, oh, we already have 2 cars. What do I need another vehicle for type thing? There's some weird logic that goes on there sometimes. But in your case, you guys, instead of even going around it, it's all positive. How do we do this? You found a purpose. I'm going to anchor this. I'm going to come back to this question. I want to anchor it and actually go somewhere else temporarily. I'm also going to go to the great food truck. Okay. And I want everyone in the audience to perceive what legacy, impact, and influence truly looks like as a human. Okay. And I'll anchor it biblically, but it's also true without us anchoring it that way. Okay. Here's why. Someone has an idea, great food truck race. Food trucks are popular right now. Let's get them on TV. It might be a way to make some money. It also might be a way to show the industry, hey, maybe other people might get motivated to do food trucks. Maybe someone thought about it that way. I don't know. But ultimately what it did is it planted seeds in a lot of people. We've now talked about 2 people on this show. I've interviewed her in the last week in the episodes release. They'll be about a month and a half apart. But it's same thing, going on to the Great Food Truck Race, seeing it, then going on it, even though they had mechanical problems, big influence on these things. What we have to understand is that sometimes things right now plant seeds and have impact and influence long time from now. Why is history important? Why are people like, oh, it doesn't matter about history. Why should I go backwards and look that way? Why do I need to learn something when everything's forward? Well, forget about that. We, as humans, naturally make the same mistakes over and over again for some reason. Let's just ignore that easy logical fact. But the other part is that there are seeds and things that are done that are meant to be planted a long time ago that don't necessarily need to be used until much later.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about here. Your trajectory has changed. You have new purpose, probably a happier life, being your own person, having your own destiny, having your own freedom. But it took a seed being planted by someone who had the idea of creating a TV show, and then the people that supported them to make it, and then the advertisers who thought it would be a good idea. And yes, did it make money? Of course. But what's the true value ultimately? And how much impact is it going to have on the families and the individuals that go and start food truck businesses?
Right. They pretty much put a culture on the map.
Yeah. And so I wanted to anchor that. Let's go into building the food truck now. And if you guys want to comment on what I just said or that seed being planted, that's up to you guys. I'm open to that. And then we can get to the other question. We have plenty of time. I don't have anything else for the rest of the day. So it's up to you guys how much you want to go into depth on everything. But anyway, so that's the first part if you want to comment on. But the second part then goes into building the food truck.
Okay.
So I think what we both love when we're watching it is to see the heart that goes on the tracks, that love, that passion, that motivation. Sometimes it gets a little passionate and it can get a little hairy scary, as we've all seen. I think we've all experienced it on the trucks. But to see too the community aspects and the way that it impacts each of the communities and the turnout and the love. It's not just a business. It's the concept of community and showing up and getting together. So that's kind of what also I get hit with when I've watched it. What is your take on it?
It's along the same lines as you. It was just, it was an addictive show for me. It was so fun to watch. The hustle, the bustle, the highs, the lows. You don't really understand it till you do it, and I don't think they can actually portray all of the highs and the lows on the show because it's an emotional roller coaster. It really truly is. It's some events are kind of a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. Maybe turned out exactly how you thought. Maybe turned out worse than you thought. Maybe turned out phenomenal. And
learning to punt.
It's learning to harness.
Yeah.
Self in those situations, and
I love it.
That's easier for Kristen to. She's pretty good with her even keel. I have my moments of highs and lows, and
So Justin, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I have my own practice, and so you'll see me every once in a while with him go into like practice mode to get things even kill on the track. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to keep moving forward. And so I think a little bit of my cheerleader comes out and too, a little rough. So it's funny, like, I don't know, like when I'm watching the show, to kind of taking it back to the question, I just feel like you can relate so much when you're in those moments and you truly appreciate them more. And I think I guess this kind of goes back to my therapy side too, is you start to realize you're not alone. You realize and you get to understand by seeing these individuals and their experiences and their heartbreaks, like depending on what's gone on, you're not alone. And it gives you sometimes like that hope of like, okay, we're going to get up tomorrow. We're going to do this again, because you've seen people pull through. I mean, I feel like I got that out of the show a lot too.
And speaking on that too, and this may be a little off topic with that, but it goes back to the community part that she was talking about earlier. is when you do have those, say you have the mechanical issues or something's not going right or you've got questions, the food truck community, at least here locally, and it appears to be the same everywhere, they pull together. If you've got a generator gone bad, if somebody's got an extra generator, they bring it to you.
Yeah.
If you need help, like we had a generator just crap out on us. Nobody had an extra, but we had 4 people over there trying to help me diagnose it. Unfortunately, we didn't get it fixed. It was flooded for the night. Couldn't get it to flood. But just that sense of community within the industry it's mind blowing. It's friendships and relationships. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm going to anchor something else for everyone because I think it's important. One, I'm going to anchor that I hear probably like 2 years down the road. Sorry, I was thinking international already, but you'll see why in a second. We're going to hear about Kristen having this international therapy business for food entrepreneurs and their families. Specifically, what a niche that is, because talk about PTSD we go through. My gosh. But yeah, so that's one. Number 2 is what you just said, which I think the community. Okay, let's talk about this. I will tell you as I've done this podcast that the community, the amount of food trucks, food trailers, or those also going from there into brick and mortar that have encouraged there to be a larger community at whole, like they have in their local communities, just in their food trucks, beyond just the food truck community, because a lot of them step out into restaurants or brick and mortar and they're like, there's no community anymore. It's true. You don't get the same help you got before in a restaurant that you did when you were in a truck and trailer. Okay. And then internationally, you definitely don't get the support. So that's part of that's just been something, it's been a long time talking about it on this show. And the other part is, in doing so, that's how Gorilla Brave was created. It's gone a zigzag everywhere for everyone, but you can go online on Instagram and go to Gorilla Brave and see what we're doing. I'm taking all my entrepreneurial years, all the years in business that I have, and then translating it through what I also am learning on the podcast at the same time, when we're posting the educational information, whether it's food safety. Sometimes it goes out of order because I recorded a different order than you guys seeing it being released in, meaning that I'm way ahead of you guys and the audience in terms of recording and then creating posts around it. So I just want to anchor that we're trying to do in the same community that we're talking about here. We're trying to create that on a greater level, not only in your cities, from all the way down food, farming, beverage, nutrition, hospitality entrepreneurs, like where we really can benefit each other, help each other out, where I'm getting a person that's creating coffee, working with a person that owns a breakfast place, that's also working with a person that's doing a substitute egg plant-based product because they need it. So you just saw there's a triangle deal possibly there in some way where they're all benefiting each other. Maybe the egg substitute is helping the coffee person get business because they're already selling egg substitutes to diners. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to create here, not only on that level where it's a transactional thing, but on a greater level in leadership. So I think it is important, and I think to have it on a greater level where we can contact each other and support each other. I hear you guys out there. That's why we're doing it. I was resistant because I'm like, I don't have more to manage or more time to manage something or lead another team in another business right now. But we figured out a way to do it. I think it's successful, a way that it works with my time as we do the episodes, where I'm releasing the content as I do the episodes, so it's fresh on my mind. So thank you guys. Thank you for listening to that. The other thing we were about to talk about was building the food truck. How do you guys go about that? What does that look like? You've never done it before, so how do you go about this?
It started off really exciting. Couldn't wait. Researched and looked and marketplace and just waited for the right trailer to come along. So we do have a food trailer. We don't have a food truck. And my personal opinion, I'm sure everybody's got their own. I think the trailer is the way to go, just from a logistical standpoint. For if you have mechanical issues, if your truck goes down, you can go rent another truck. If you got to get to an event, if your food truck goes down, you're kind of stuck. You got to cancel. So my personal opinion, I think the food trailer is definitely the way to go. But yeah, we found one on Marketplace, went out, looked at it. It was originally going to be set up as a concession trailer. The guy got a much better career opportunity for him and his family, so he decided to get out. So at that point, they kind of had a makeshift 3-compartment sink in there, and they had the electrical run. The sink was not going to pass health department for what I was wanting to do with it. And so we got it back here. We're excited. Kind of looked at it for a few weeks, didn't do much to it. Mulling everything over, and finally got out there one weekend and started trying to fool with the plumbing. A lot of YouTube. I have no plumbing experience. Thank the Lord, it already had the wiring done. It was unfortunately 30 amps, so I had to have an electrician come in and upgrade the box and everything to run 50 amp because we are an all-electric truck. I don't have propane. That would be something I would probably go back and change, if I had to do it again, because it does require quite a hefty generator to run the 2 griddles that we have in there. Got all the plumbing done, went to fire it up, and it all worked. I was excited. We got up the next morning. We're sitting on our front porch drinking coffee, and we noticed something dripping out of the trailer, and go inspect it. And one of the tanks that had come with it had a leak in the bottom of it, and I had to rip everything out.
This was the plumbing side. The electric side was great. The plumbing side, to watch his heart, Justin, just absolutely crumble. And I tell you, that cheerleader side, that I mean, I was actually a college cheerleader, so that came into helping, I hope. And I sat out there and watched him rip out the entire sink. And then he kind of stepped away from it, and you kind of saw like that motivation and that shine kind of start to fall. And then he did it. He got back on the horse.
Needed a couple days to get my thoughts back under me, and ordered all the stuff again and
built a bigger and better one.
Yeah, we put it together bigger and better.
Where it can detach, and we learned our lessons learned come out of your first year. And I think this trailer started off early enough to where it set a really good precedence for us to know, like, this is not going to be perfect. And building it was definitely one of those things. But I feel like after the plumbing incident, after that, the rest of it
smoothed out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So the rest of it wasn't too bad, putting tables in and stuff like that. The hood, the exhaust vent in the hood, that was it was not as. What do you mean it was an oops?
Remember we flipped it upside down?
No. I bought the wrong one. So I've actually got a concession exhaust vent on there. So it it shoots the grease down on top of the trailer, which has become kind of a nightmare. So that's going to be an upgrade we do this year, get an up blast. But yeah, putting that thing in by myself was that was fun. There's I can't remember the guy's name on YouTube, but he does a whole series building a trailer from start to finish. And so I just mimicked him when he got some stuff from Harbor Freight to help me hold it up, and drilled holes, which makes you a nervous wreck, drilling holes in your brand new trailer, and sealed it up pretty good. And yeah, we've had no issues out of it. We've been super blessed. We've got some other food truck friends that have gone through trailer tires left and right about every other week. And they're like, yep, we're down with another trailer tire. We have not had a trailer tire go flat yet, knock on wood. So we're both doing that. And
I want to comment on that, actually. It's because what I learned, because I went through that with my trailers, because what happens is the tires that are originally on the trailers are not weighted for the additional weight, and neither are the axles.
No.
Right.
And no one ever wants to replace them and the person that's selling the trailer generally doesn't want to tell you that you need to put another $6,000 into your trailer.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it, the tires and everything, but it does happen. I do know that it was a nightmare that I dealt with myself. Oh my gosh. I will tell you, and that was going to be my story. We didn't even merge onto the highway from the ongoing, and we blew a tire.
Oh, wow.
Then within 48 hours, both axles were bent. And that's why we decided to start building food trailers ourselves when we had our own equipment business, because I just saw someone do it in a way that we could have had the extra money, whatever, but it was so bad. So we decided to build one ourselves. So.
Yeah, that's the way to do it if you've got the resources and the know-how.
And then that's how, previously I was in that business, because There is a lot to it. You have to be aware of how much weight you're putting into it. But yes, you guys were blessed. So that was your only issue. I dealt with blown tires. I had a tractor trailer blow the tire next to one of the trailers, and it blew out the gray water system everywhere. Man, it was crazy. Getting, having to flatten the tires to get under an underpass because someone that was driving it went on the wrong highway. Just crazy things like that because we were too tall with the exhaust hood. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
We've definitely run into some of the
stories,
the plumbing issues. I've come off a curb or two, knocked off the drain pipe or the drain release for the gray and fresh water. So that's where I learned real quick to make sure everything can be removable.
Easy off, easy on, easy replaceable, plug and play, as they used to say, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to say it.
A lot of those rubber hoses in the plumbing department are a godsend for food trucks for sure.
Absolutely. And if you get into gas, the same thing, those quick connects and quick disconnect hoses are just essential to move stuff in and out of your truck or trailer or switch things out. It's a good topic, and I never talked about it before, but I will say it now. And when we built our trailers, or we would have even our kitchens, as large as they were, even if we had space, or as small as they were, because any of our kitchens were anywhere from 7,500 square feet to, hundreds of thousands of square feet, depending on the hospital or the long-term care home or where we were in the country or the world.
Right.
But the thing about it is always being able to maneuver equipment-wise. You can always sell equipment. There's a good used market for it. You're not going to get out what you paid for it. There's just never going to happen. Let's be honest. You don't for a car either, the minute you drive it off the lot. So same idea, but you want to be able to plug and play and be able to change menu and experiment even in your food truck or trailer.
Yes.
And does it cost extra money? Yes. But is it worth to specialize? Yes. Here we're talking about Bologna. They're already specialized in a major way, so they don't need to customize or find a specialty within their niche. What they're doing is a niche within a niche within a niche, which becomes a specialty, which ultimately, according to marketing and advertising and human psychology, eventually it becomes a fad again, which we'll see. This is why things like this, I like talking about things like Bologna and things like this. They're popular. They kind of went out of popularity because people fed it a lot to their kids, but then the grandkids still liked it. That's what happened to me. My parents don't want anything to do with bologna. But me, serve it up right now. And it's interesting because I've eaten a lot of bologna over the last 2.5 years as I've restructured my life, ups and downs, whatever, trying to rebuild as an entrepreneur, personal life changes. But there's a comfort in it. There's a comfort in the easiness of bologna on a sandwich and whatever. So that translated makes sense to me as a comfort food on a greater level, as an industry segment within the food business. I just want to anchor that for you guys. I want to sort of help the trajectory here, the importance of what you're doing, the importance of how well you're doing it. But not only that, the importance of understanding that you're in a niche that could build a huge market, or even something in every city in America, if not the world, because the world definitely loves bologna.
Well, that's the goal and the dream for sure.
So talk to me about that. Where does this go? Talk to me about what you guys are thinking, how you're building, because you're only a little over a year in. And I would say that from the standpoint of watching a show like Food Truck Race, the Great Food Truck Race, all these years, the amount of education that's been compounded into you already, so you didn't make the mistakes, is an important one to note for the audience. But let's talk about where this goes, because it's not like a normal 1 year conversation that I would normally be having. It's different for one particular fact, the education you got specifically in your field, whether it was experience going in a food truck or you were watching it through and educating through other means, even to build your own food truck on YouTube. So where does this go?
I think that plays into the parent company, all things simple stuff.
Yeah. So what we're trying to expand upon this year is we're being more strategic with the events that we do and the places we set up. Of course, last year being the opening year, it was all about getting out there, getting your name out there. Even if you took some events that maybe weren't profitable or
It was who you met.
and yeah, it was really interesting. It was just different places you meet different people, which set up connects with this event, that event. This we set up at a brewery and we met a guy named Pete who set us up with our local college football team, MTSU. And so we started doing the home games inside the stadium, inside the concourse. And it was amazing. It was an absolutely blast time that we had every time. We were sad to see it end. Of course, we'll be back this year. MTSU has, reached out for different other sporting events for us to do too. We just started doing tennis last week. And so it's really interesting to watch where it goes. Our future right now for this year, our focus is trying to get into the catering aspect of it. We're still learning and researching on that. So I can't tell you a whole lot as far as where we're moving with that quite yet. Still a lot of learning and researching.
Back to that menu part you were talking about, Justin, is like, how do you create the menu for the catering? And it doesn't necessarily have to come directly off of the food truck, but it can have aspects of it. And the parent company that we have is called All Things Simply Southern. And so when we first originally started this, we were looking at doing multiple food trucks.
Different styles of food.
Different styles of food. And then All Things Simply Southern was actually geared to be a farm. And the concept was a place, once again, for community to come, but where we could also leave and go to different places.
But have all the food trucks on one property, have an indoor area for weather type of thing. And
getting together. Concept. Yeah. I'm Italian too, so I come from a family where you come together. I think you talk more than you eat, but you eat a lot still.
Yeah, we still break bread. Yeah, in a traditional sense, for sure.
Yeah, and so what we're doing, and it's that part with punting, you start to realize maybe the exact idea of All Things Simply Southern isn't maybe going to look exactly what it looked like when you started it, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to get there. So
and then it can evolve into other things too.
And so right now, the food truck, maybe getting another food truck by the end of this year would be on our minds to continue to grow so we could have more flexibility with events that are the same day. And then the catering aspect, we've done some catering and it's been kind of just by word of mouth that's talking about it. And it worked out really well.
Yeah, and
that's a
good aspect to get you through the slower months too. Of course, with wintertime and stuff, it slows down significantly for food trucks. The catering division would definitely be something to kind of segue between, mid-November to mid to late March.
Which is typically too, like with the holidays, you get a lot of people that are throwing parties. So the catering aspects during that time of the year is absolutely perfect. So that I kind of feel that's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm gonna plant some seeds with you guys. Actually, I feel that I'm going to do this. I love this idea. Okay, I particularly love it if it sticks to what you guys are already good at, which is finding something that's sort of unique about the South, and then concentrating on that. And then expanding on it. So narrowing down your focus and then expanding on that narrow. Because I think it's important. Things like, for example, hush puppies that are from the South, chicken and dumplings, traditional things I think about, shrimp and grits. Those type of things, and they can go in many different directions. Deviled eggs, I think of the South, I don't know why. Pecan pie, fried chicken, Hoppin' John, whatever, po' boys. So things like that I think that are sort of niche that no one's really doing very well in the food truck game, I think is something that's going to work really well for you guys.
It's funny you said the deviled eggs, because that is a Downing specialty right there that we have actually.
We have competitions
on our deviled eggs.
My sister thinks hers are better than mine. I think mine are better than hers, and Kristen's are better than both of ours.
In dessert aspects too, we were thinking about banana pudding for the dessert aspects. But I definitely am going to hold to what you're saying, because I agree. I feel like with the concept of all things simply Southern, that's definitely where we need to stay.
Southern cuisine.
Is that Southern cuisine?
Yeah, and in the narrows, navigate the narrows because you found a formula that works that I think's important. And there's a lot of niche things in the South, like cream corn or, gosh, Brunswick stew. I don't even chicken fried steak. Like I could go on. Biscuits and gravy, pies. There's, I don't even know, chow chow. So there's in the amount of things that people relish in the South is mind blowing. So that's all that I'm trying to say there, because I think you're on to something, and I think it's something that not only can be built into a community, but it's something that is necessary that could be built into multiple communities in different places based on it, because the world loves Southern food now. It's not just a Southern thing. It's not just an American thing. We're seeing it grow worldwide. That's part of the reason I have Australian companies and companies all over the world, burgers, barbecue, American style food, Southern food. It's all becoming very popular around the world. No different than French, Italian, Chinese food has become popular here. We have to think about this, that what we're creating here can be exported and become quote unquote looked at as American food in the same way, cuisine wise. And it doesn't have to be anything special. It has to just be true to our culture.
Yes. Yeah. True. Very true.
So I love this. I think you guys are really on to something. This is going to be my last question for you guys. Talk to me about your dynamic working with each other. What does that look like? How do you sort of manage some of that and what that looks like?
Well, we both have full-time jobs, 40-hour, 9 to 5s. Obviously, she's got her therapy business that she does too. And then we've got the food truck. So it does get stressful at times.
Time management is my thing. I'm really good at managing time. I also have a full-time, my private practice is a part-time. I work full-time doing trainings online for a company in about 28 different states I'm in. I do that, and then I balance between the private practice and his schedule for the food truck, which if I have to say something, I feel like I'm talking to my independent contractors right now. If I have to say something, scheduling, communication, and setting expectations are the three things that will keep you sane. And lists are fabulous.
Yes, that's a hard lesson I've had to learn over the last year, just making a list on the fly as I'm thinking about it.
And so as long as when we created the joint calendar, I think that's when a lot of stress came off of me because I'm balancing so much, and it allowed him to communicate without having to forget things. So like you said, we learn these things. These are great lessons.
I'm going to give all men a little advice. Share your calendar with your spouse. It makes life so much easier. Just do it. Every single note, every single thing. That way you're not having to explain anything or backtrack or whatever. Because when we do it or we make note of it, just inform the people that need to be informed, because I've tried it different ways. Nothing works as well as that, in my opinion. Anyway.
It's very good words of wisdom, Justin.
But as far as our relationship on the truck when we're working, we have a blast. We have an absolute blast dealing with our customers. We dance around.
We
singing.
do dance.
We try to make people feel like family. I mean, that's the goal of the truck was to, it's family based, community based, and that's, when people come up to the truck, we want to feel like family. So that's kind of where we're at with it.
And the people that come and find us, because we do have a following, we really try, and if we don't remember their names right away, we definitely remember their faces. And for me, it's important to start learning names because, they're
repeat customers.
They're repeat customers. They care. They've found something and they appreciate it, and you appreciate them. I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
Your customers are your world. And you want them to walk away feeling like they got what they came for. And there's a couple of times like Nate will take and hand me something and I'll be like, you know what? Let's brown this just a little bit more so it's just a little more crunchy for them. And so you really, And I guess that's the other thing is being able to communicate with each other without getting offended.
Yeah.
That's a big one right there. And in the beginning, there's a couple times we definitely were like, okay, that's not what I meant. And you like go through like, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm
You
feeling.
get home and you sit down and you have some communication conversations.
Yeah.
Those are lots of fun, but
Yeah.
they do help a lot though.
Yeah. I know they're as fun as like getting a root canal, but they're necessary in both of them. So I do want to talk about that though. I think that one of the things that I think is important is one, focusing on fun, especially if you're in business and in a relationship together. I think the other one that you guys said is communication and integrity in that communication. I'm going to extrapolate that out. I think that whatever the jobs that you're doing outside of this, as well as this together, I agree that is a right approach. Build a business, have one hand on one vine as you're swinging to the next vine. Okay. It is okay to do that. I know everyone says burn the ships behind you. You have to have the ships to burn to get there in the first place.
Right.
So when we use that term, keep in mind someone had to build the ships. They still had to sail across the ocean in order to burn them in the first place to be in a position to go on the attack. If we burn the ships right away, we have nothing to get over there with.
Right.
So that's like when someone throws it at me, I understand what you're saying, but you haven't built the ships to get to where you need to burn them in the first place.
Yeah, I understand both aspects of that. For us, it's making sure we're good financially. Yeah. And when this gets to a point where, we have to quit our jobs, awesome.
So let me rephrase that too. So with all things Simply Southern, when we're looking at the farm, which is kind of like the big goal, private practice is my thing. I will always help on the truck. I will always, be there to, sound things. And I do this for a living anyhow with other people and their companies. So it really came in handy when we were doing this. But when it comes to the farm, I will end up having my office on site where the farm is so that, I can more easily run both aspects. And, we'll have a place for the food trucks and I can support while I do what my passion and my dream is. Yes. Is like working with families, working with children, life coaching. I actually work with professional, I don't know, they're pretty young, but competitive cheerleading. That's actually kind of one of my niches that I work with the girls that are going through different aspects of that journey, just like all sports athletes do. And so when we look at the farm, we're definitely looking at it as a thing for all places to go live so that we can have more time together too. I feel like when we're with each other, life is good. When I don't have him, I start to get a little moody. Like I miss him. Like I miss our fun. And I agree with you on the fun. And no matter what, like whether you're having fun on the truck, you're having fun in the house, you always got to laugh. You always got to play because it makes those hard days a lot easier.
Especially married couples working together on a business. Oh, yeah. You have to have that separation, but you got to have that fun too.
So when we're talking about it, we're talking about how we merge for sure and work together.
Yeah, I love this. One, I'm going to talk about farm and family and community for a second. I grew up on a farm. I think everyone knows that by now, maybe on the show, but if not, you're learning it now. That's what my mom did for a living. She ran her business. She was an entrepreneur in farming, particularly in horses, but she's very good at what she did. She also made sure that my dad, as an entrepreneur who was building a business there, when I was building a business out of the family home or doing whatever I needed, she was there. So because the farm became a central location point for our business at the beginning, eventually we had to move out because the corporate businesses grew too large to be and have employees coming on the farm all the time in that sense for a headquarters. But it is important that there is the centralization and there is the building. And I think the closer you are together, the less time you waste commuting and the more you have people come to you is important. And it's the ability, one, to get more information out there. Two, it's the ability to learn faster. And three, it allows you to have control of your time better as an entrepreneur. especially if you're running multiple businesses. And it's like, I send people the calendar. Like, here's my schedule. Oh, you need something from me. Here's my calendar. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go through my calendar. I'm not going to go back and forth with a call because it's just not efficient. We're talking about the same thing, you know? So some people that I know, entrepreneurs, even have their hair cutter come to them or make sure that every meeting they have with an attorney, accountant, or whatever is always on their location, especially if they're a farmer. They do not want to leave their farms. Right. So especially during the seasons or any time of year. So just an FYI for everyone, however you want to do it, I understand it, honestly, because there's more than just the people right in front of you you're supporting. You got community, you got vendors, you've got customers, clients, whatever. Next, my last thing is this. When you deal with customers all day face to face like you do in a food truck, it's different than a restaurant because often the entrepreneurs, whatever, they're running around, they get to the table and they have to deal with things here and there. But it's nothing like also cooking the food and dealing with the customer. And I don't mean dealing with it in a bad way. I mean trying to satisfy them and make sure we delivered what we promise, okay, and that they're paid for. It didn't come out exactly right, but I think everyone knows what I mean. What it does in life is you start to realize, one, there's truth in everything that they say, okay? There's some sort of lesson to be learned. That's what I mean by truth, not truth as in right or wrong.
Right.
Okay, capital T. The second thing is I think when it comes to our personal relationships, we have an understanding that there's a lot of filters that humans go through, and the filters can change daily. Because you have a customer that's angry at you one day, but you see them 3, 5, 6 weeks later maybe, and they're perfectly normal. They're not mad anymore and like disgruntled. You understand that it's not necessarily something you did. You have a chance to make their world better in both cases.
Yeah.
And it's the same in our personal relationships in our homes. If we just listen, that's all the customer wants, is to be listened to. Really, guys, stop trying to solve their problem when you don't know what it is. I get that a lot from the questions that I get here, guys. And this is an important thing. I'm glad we were able to attach this is don't solve a problem for someone by assuming you know what it is. Just let them then. And sometimes it's not really any problem with the burger. It's just they'd want to be heard. So just keep that in mind. Yes. Can you still fix what they say and make it better? Take it in your, character or build it or change your product? Yes, but for sure. Where can they find you guys online? Where can they find you this upcoming spring, summer, fall? Is there any major events you guys are looking forward to?
Okay, so we are on Facebook, Full of Bologna. The Instagram page is Full of Bologna Food Trucks with an underscore in between each word. And then we also have our website, which is allthingsimplysouthern.com. And that actually has our upcoming schedule that we keep updated as we add events to our calendar.
Finder.
Street Food Finder. Yes, we use Street Food Finder. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they do online ordering. You can find food trucks that you're looking for. If you just don't know what you're in the mood for, you can find a food truck and where they're at and located. And it's been a real blessing for us, for sure.
We've had a lot of people through it. Yeah.
And, one of my stories that stick out, I know it's a little off topic. We had one guy show up at a event one Saturday morning on his motorcycle. And he said that's what he does in his retirement. He gets on Street Food Finder, finds a food truck he hadn't eaten at, rides his motorcycle over there, eats his lunch, and then rides home.
I remember that.
I love that. That's awesome.
That was really cool. But yeah, as far as finding us throughout the year, we do post it on our socials, usually the week of and the week prior, and everything else is posted, for whatever we have booked up for now is on our website.
And we have things booked all the way through to the end of the year. We're still adding some of our core ones, or we will be back at Jack Daniel's. We will be doing Bell Buckle, both of those.
RC Moon Pie Festival and the craft fair that they do.
Yeah.
So we've got some staples we do year in and year out now. I say that because we've only been open a year, but that's typically that's what the other food trucks have told us. Once you're in, unless you screw it up, you'll be back every year. So
there you go. I love that.
But yeah, we're kind of taking things like event wise, kind of on the fly this year. Just we're gonna do it more on our terms than it was just getting our name out there this year. We're gonna be a little more strategic. So
Justin, I wanted to make a comment on one of the things you had said about with customers, and this probably comes from my background.
Absolutely.
I feel that if you can make eye contact, smile, and come off gentle, and just ask them, how can I make it better? And listen, as you were saying, you can resolve. Instead of going into the battle, I think a lot of people did like, oh, well, I didn't know. Well, you didn't say that. Like, you don't need to go there. All you need to do is look at them and ask, how can I make it better? And just listen and then go from there. Maybe sometimes you're going to be able to. Maybe there's something that you can't do. Maybe it's about just remaking the sandwich. Or I know sometimes if I mess up on something, I'll throw in an extra thing of mac and cheese because that's the thing everyone seems to love on our menu. And so it's about being kind, giving grace, give understand people have bad days. And like you said, it may not be about the sandwich. It just may be about the day.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. I'm going to ask you guys to sign up for another episode. I would love to talk more about your adventure and talk about some ups and downs and some stories and stuff. That's up to you guys. Go ahead and do that when you guys get a chance.
sounds great.
On another note, with the audience, guys, we talked about Gorilla Brave today again. I know there are events, there are networking things that will be going on. Networking event is usually 4 to 5 hours long in a random city. I sort of go into the city for a while, meet with some of the people that have been on the show, but then we do a networking event on a Monday or Tuesday because that's easier for everyone generally. And again, not during football season because that's Monday Night Football has become a big deal for football, for people. So for ordering in restaurants. The other part is there'll be like summit there. We are planning for May. It is a 2-day summit. There's various topics and various pathways, but one of the topics is food trucks. One of the topics is integrating spirituality into your businesses. We're going to be talking about financing, giving your business a voice, giving yourself a voice, giving your personal brand a voice. All three, which happen as an entrepreneur now. We have a personality brand that we have to build as an entrepreneur. We have our own life that we need to manage. What does that look like? Our voice in our families and our homes. And then ultimately, what does that mean? Because the business is also an extension of us as entrepreneurs. What kind of voice is that business being given? And we have some things on neuromarketing, as you guys will have heard on this podcast before in the previous episodes. It hasn't been released yet when I record this, but by the time it's out, it will be on there. You want to go listen to that, neuromarketing and food, and why food is becoming so popular on social media, all that stuff. We talked a little bit about psychology and stuff like that, but these things matter and how we get it out there. It's the way marketing is going. Not many people are using neuromarketing, but it is becoming something that, whether intentional or not, social media is exposing. Where does our eye go on the page? For example, we all know that the technology catches our eye now. So these are the type of things we're talking about. How do we use them? How do we utilize them in our food businesses? How do we utilize them on our menus? How do we utilize them when they walk into our stores? It matters because we are building a brand, and we have to be able to tell the story of that brand in a very short period of time, because the attention span is very short in today's age. People flip, move left. There's more content coming at us than ever. So that's why I'm doing the summit. It goes beyond what we can talk about in the podcast, and it's limited to only 40 people. And it's limited to only 40 people because I want it to be intimate. The summits will be small. So that's just because I'm not capable of giving a lot to a huge crowd and giving what I need and the energy and bringing in the right people that can truly make impact. I just don't do it in big rooms. I'm a small group type person. Jesus had 12. No one on my team should ever be leading more than 12 people, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I do it that way. The networking and stuff, those are bigger events. We can get bigger. And will the summits maybe get bigger on a conference level? Possibly, but then they're not going to be a summit. A summit is something that's going to be very intimate for you guys to intentionally learn from all the questions I'm getting from you that I can't possibly cover in podcasts. They require knowing more about your businesses. They require me bringing in experts that are outside my expertise that I would do if I were running my business and someone in my business came and asked me the questions you guys are asking me. I'd go find the experts first. So I'm going to do the same thing for you guys. That's what we're doing. And then Gorilla Brave, look on there. There's content, franchising content. It's a little bit basic right now, but we're just getting the basics out there for everyone that's trying to get into the food and beverage and nutrition and hospitality entrepreneur game, because they're the ones desperate for the information right now. They're the ones struggling at the beginning. They're the ones just starting their business. We're populating that first, and then we'll start laying more complicated things in there. But I want to make sure we're helping all of those in need during the recession, during the downward times, helping them figure out specialty products, figure out if they're franchising, figuring out maybe they need to take a step back. All that stuff is the stuff I'm trying to get out there, both through this podcast, then through the content that's out there, and then through these networking and summits where we're all growing in the food and entrepreneur and beverage space to keep up with the rapidly changing things that are going on. When we became a chef or an entrepreneur, who knew we had to be social media experts? Who knew that we had to be logistics and food experts and maybe even climate experts based on the foods we're putting on our menus, because some of them may no longer exist. So these are things that I'm seriously, if we want longevity in our businesses, or we want to make sure there's longevity in the future in food, there's also the greater purpose in our industry of the unity we're talking about in the fellowship and being together, because it is important that we preserve it and we make sure that we are able to continue to do it in the way that we do as entrepreneurs, and that others are able to find the same freedom. So we are also doing that. We are exporting the idea of freedom through entrepreneurship, particularly in food, beverage, hospitality, and nutrition. Why? Because everywhere in the world, someone has the chance to be an entrepreneur. Even in a country like China, they have a chance to start a business, or in a communist country to start a business, right? And so there is freedom in it. Think about it. How does things spread? They go into the cracks. So what we're doing, we're going to go into the cracks as entrepreneurs in food and beverage, and we're going to do better. And that's the part of what I'm trying to give to all you guys. You're demanding it. You're asking me for it. So I'm going to give it to you guys. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate you guys. Nate and Kristen, you guys are incredible. I appreciate it.
Oh, we greatly appreciate the opportunity. It was awesome.
This is wonderful.
This is our first podcast, so it was neat.
Yeah, I hope it was a good warm-up for you guys, because I hope you do more. I think it's something that you guys should do, because you've got a great story and you've got a great brand and a great product. I mean, I see it on the reviews online. People are digging what you're doing. So, and you guys came recommended from another food truck, actually, also, that heavily recommended you guys. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that you came at me in multiple directions. So, and I like the concept, and Bologna's definitely stuck out. So I appreciate you guys coming on again, and everyone in the audience. If you like what they're doing, go to Nashville, find the Full of Bologna Food Truck. Keep an eye on what they're doing at All Things Simply Southern, because that is important. Also, like, share, comment on their Instagram, on their social media, things like that. Help them out if you like what you hear here. If you like bologna, no different. Also, if you like the episode, you want to get their voice out there, share the episode if you're a fan or a family member or whatever. That's how you can support them. The story is how we build our businesses at the beginning. Our stories, the story of the business becomes the marketing and advertising. We have nothing else. It's the story of our food. That's why it's so popular. That's why a business that only maybe sees, if they're lucky, 400 customers in a day, but has reel that gets 1 million views a day, they're still getting eyes on them for the future. They're stacking for the future. Okay, it's important to think about from the minute we open our business, from the minute we do things, we're having eyes on us and we're building our reputation. So how do we do that? People sharing our information, sharing our content, sharing our story. So that's how we do it here. If you want to support it, obviously buying sharing on your own social media, all that helps too. But people ask me all the time, you are the vehicle as a customer. So if you buy it and you want to do more, or you want to help them more, spread the word. That's it. We use your word of mouth. We all know it's the most powerful thing. So thank you everyone for listening in. I love you guys, and we're out.